LeBreau?
Mr. Barnes?
Present.
Ms. Cantor?
Here.
Mr. Davidoff?
Here.
Mr. Dodge?
Here.
Ms. Fay is absent. Ms. Kerrigan? Here. Mr. Sweeney? Mr. Winograd? Here. And Mr. Williams?
Here.
Thank you, Ms. LeBreau. We have a communication from Casey Power regarding West Hartford Outdoor Swim Team, and you have 5 minutes. Come on up to the podium, and we are, and then we'll listen to your comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me tonight and allowing me to say a few things about our outdoor swim team in West Hartford. This year, Leisure Services restructured the outdoor swim team, eliminating the Beachland, Kennedy, Fern, and Eisenhower neighborhood teams in favor of an indoor team at Cornerstone Aquatic Center. We are here tonight to express our opposition to this restructuring, as well as our disapproval of the process by which this decision was made. We feel that Outdoor Swim Team was one of the best and most beloved programs offered by the town of West Hartford. It had gone on for generations of recreational developmental league that made swimming accessible to kids of all different backgrounds, many of whom would not have the opportunity to swim competitively or even reach a level of competency without it. In March, swim team families received a flyer in their mailboxes indicating that swim team had moved out of neighborhood pools and was offered now at Cornerstone for only $115 a swimmer. My kids, I would have had 3 Kennedy swimmers this year, and their friends were upset when they heard this, because this was the highlight of their summer, and they told us that they did not want to participate any longer. We were upset because we were blindsided by this news. Leisure Services did not ask the opinions of the families or initiate any type of discussion before they made this change. I was later informed per phone conversation that the individuals in charge knew this would be a very unpopular decision, so they intentionally did not disclose any of these plans in anticipation of a backlash. We think this is an unacceptable way to run a town program, since this was not a decision that benefited the majority of the people affected, and it was a major change that most residents did not support. After talking to other families, I decided to start a petition on change.org, which I passed out to all of you tonight, which had 550 signatures as of this morning. It was not only swim team families that expressed their support, but former participants, many of whom went on to swim in high school and college, former coaches who were looking forward to gaining some work experience this summer, and other town employees who indicated that they were unhappy with the elimination of this program. It was for a variety of reasons, the first of which being it's a cost-prohibitive move for many residents. This year, the swim team jumped in price from $70 to $115. For our family, that's a difference of $135 for the 3 swimmers that we would have had. Private teams are very expensive, but the town team gave kids who can't afford a private team a chance to compete at a lower cost, which is especially important if you have multiple children like we do. And this is something that we see happening often. It's an opportunity gap that's growing between children from higher income families and ones with fewer resources. And this is just one more example of how lower income kids are being excluded from a program that used to be accessible to kids from a variety of different backgrounds. West Hartford is an extremely diverse town, and it should provide inclusive activities for families of all income levels. And learning to swim well is a life skill that all children should have. There's also a transportation issue, which is a problem for both low-income families whose kids used to walk to neighborhood pools for swim team and may not have reliable transportation to Cornerstone 5 days a week, and for the working families who can't necessarily make the 8:30 a.m. and 4:45 p.m. practice times work for their schedules. This also doesn't work for families with multiple age groups. The way that the Cornerstone Cyclones is structured is that the older swimmers swim in the morning and the younger ones in the evening. This is not realistic to make multiple trips to Cornerstone in one day. We would have 3 separate practice times, which would not work at all for our family. And it is especially hard for our younger siblings, who, as you guys know, it's very hard to keep them at bay in Cornerstone in the indoor facility. My 4th point is that outdoor swim teams cultivated a sense of neighborhood pride. If you've ever been to the town championship meet at the end of July, you would feel the excitement during the final relays when the 4 pools were competing side by side. You'd hear the cheers and laughter during the coaches' relay when the favorite coach with the big muscles gets lapped by the scrawny crosstown rival. You'd see the joy on the kids' faces as they push their coaches in the water at the end of the meet and jump in the pool with their summer swim team friends. Our team, Kennedy, has always been the smallest team, at least since my daughter Fiona started participating 5 years ago. And they usually come in 4th, but you guys should have heard the cheers the year they came in 3rd. Kids develop a real sense of pride for their neighborhood pool and their communities by participating in swim team. They cultivate friendships with kids they don't normally see during the school year. And it's also good for the adults and the families who have an excuse to pull themselves away from their phones and TVs and iPads and go outside for an hour after work and camp and enjoy the beautiful summer evenings at their neighborhood park, interacting with each other. Enjoying summer swim teams in our town's beautiful parks strengthens our communities and gives neighbors a chance to connect. My daughter has been looking forward to becoming a guard for Kennedy for some time now, and then a coach, maybe even a manager. It's been fun to watch kids get inspired and follow this path, and as my husband and his brothers and sisters did in the 80s and 90s. I also want to make the point that not everybody wants to be on a competitive team. Cornerstone Cyclones was touted as a more competitive team, and not everybody really wants that kind of level of competition. My oldest daughter is all about competition, but my younger daughter would rather chat with her buddies and hang out with the cool teenage coaches. But if she ends up swimming a couple laps in the process, I am happy. Both of my daughters learned how to swim well, and swim teams solidified that. There are no shortage of options for those who have the desire and resources to join a more competitive swim team in Hartford. We don't need another one. And lastly, nobody wants to be inside during the summer. We understand that Leisure Services is trying to support Cornerstone. We are a Waves family and members of Cornerstone Pool, and that's fine to do during the winter, but it's never going to be popular to make kids swim inside during a gorgeous summer day when we have 4 lovely outdoor pools in town. Let's use them. Swimming indoors is unattractive to kids and parents during the summer. We want our kids to be outside getting fresh air in the summertime. The benefit of keeping swim team outside and accessible to most of our residents outweighs any of the other issues cited by Leisure Services. All of West Hartford kids deserve the opportunity to participate in a recreational outdoor swim team in their neighborhood park. We would like to see it offered again next summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Power. And I will adjourn this public hearing, this public comment section, but I do want to make a comment that we receive public comment, they are submitted, it's a part of our rules, and we don't engage in a discussion, but the town manager will be commenting on this in his town manager's report during the regular council meeting. So we are adjourned, and we are going to open a public hearing that we have scheduled for 6:05. We'll do that next. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. Let me grab my... Thank you. Okay, calling the 6:05 public hearing to order, ordinance establishing procedures for licensing and public safety police details at entertainment establishments. Roll call, Mr. Bro?
Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Ms. Cantor.
Here.
Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Mr. Dodge.
Here.
Ms. Fay is absent. Ms. Kerrigan. Mr. Sweeney. Here. Mr. Winograd.
Here.
And Mr. Williams.
Here.
There was an omission in the ordinance that we received that was deemed material, so we are continuing this public hearing until August 14th at 6:25, but I understand that we have somebody that would like to speak. Miss Joan, I think is right. Well, come on up, say your name and your address, and you can speak to this. Thank you.
My name is Joan McNulty, 887 Farmington Avenue. I'm quite concerned about the behavior of in some of the restaurants. Actually, right across the street, we had Shish for one period of time, and then we had Los Imperios. I've been to the Liquor Commission twice for the remonstrance. Fortunately, the last time we went, the Liquor Commission pulled their liquor permit. But allowing that kind of behavior from an establishment in a neighborhood is very detrimental to all of us. We've all been awakened at 1 or 2 o'clock when a establishment of 200 people just really vomits those people out onto the street. They've all had a happy time. They've all had more than a few drinks. They're hollering and shouting, waking us up. The behavior on the lawns is not pretty for many people. We've got a lot of things that you would never want to see going on in your front lawn. The litter is phenomenal. There have been gunshots. I know the police have been called. They had pages of times where they had to go into an establishment of this sort. So we also, across the street at the Hampshire House, had to make arrangements to have cars towed from our parking lot. So I notice in here that parking is one of the things that is required for for an establishment to get a license, because that has been a big problem. They've been all over everywhere. So I'm hoping that this will go through. We don't have to really suffer again. It's been a wonderful, quiet summer so far. So thank you for what's been happening, and I'd like to certainly see this to go ahead. I will be, if we're going to testify again in August, we'll get our troops together for the next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McNulty. Yes, Mr. O'Leary.
Just before we continue the hearing, the problem with the ordinance as it was published is in the definition of establishment. We added a phrase to the very end of that definition. The phrase basically would say that any indoor recreation or amusement facility is an establishment that would require, regardless of whether live music is performed, it would still need this type of a permit. Ms. McNulty's comments don't really address that issue, so I just wanted you and the public to understand that we're not continuing it because of something that has something of interest to her, but.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. And Ms. McNulty, if you want to come back and testify again on August 14th, you are welcome to. We will start the public hearing at 6:25. And with that, this will be continued until 8:14 at 6:25. The public hearing.
As long as you know. Call the 6:15 public hearing to order. This is an ordinance editing schedule of permitted accessory uses, section 27 for food trucks. Roll call, Ms. LeBreau. Mr. Barr.
Present.
Ms. Cantor.
Here.
Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Mr. Dodge.
Here.
Ms. Fay is absent. Ms. Kerrigan. Here. Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Winograd.
Here.
And Mr. Williams.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. LeBreau. And we have a presentation from town staff.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll invite Mr. McGovern to come forward.
Good evening, Mark McGovern, Community Development Director. In March of 2017, excuse me, the council approved the food truck ordinance that approved 3 types of food truck operations. One would be a food truck park. We haven't received an application for that. One would be food trucks vending on a public street, but only in specific areas in the industrial zone. We haven't gotten any applications for those either. We've only gotten applications for what are food trucks as an accessory use to a commercial building in the industrial zone. And you may have seen the food trucks that are present pretty commonly at New Park Brewing. So after a year or so of living with the ordinance, we realized there was a little more efficient way in which we could administer the processing of permits. Under the current ordinance, the applicant would have to go to zoning, health, and the police department. But since it's an accessory use and the prerequisites are really just with zoning and with the health district, we are suggesting that the requirement to go through the police department be eliminated. In the schedule of uses, there is also a limitation on having a food truck at your establishment as an accessory use for only 3 nights. That hasn't become a problem, and so we also revised the schedule to take that limitation out. So the ordinance is a very short one, and really the revisions that you can read are in the schedule of permitted uses. And if you give me a minute, I will find the exact. Box number 27 shows the language that's deleted in brackets and added to in underlined sentence.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. Are there questions from the council? Mr. Barnes?
Thank you. When the ordinance was originally drafted, what was what did we consider the role of the police to be? What was the function that we thought that they were going to serve?
Well, I think we focused more and expected there to be a greater level of activity for vending on the street. And I think it was consistent with some of the other permits that the police department issued. Assistant Chief McHugh is here and might be able to speak more specifically to that issue or answer questions related to the police's role.
Good evening, Robert McHugh, Assistant Chief of Police. Yeah, the police department has a responsibility for on-street peddling, door-to-door solicitation. So when this was first coming up for discussion, it seemed like a natural progression that the police department would get involved in that as an expansion, because we anticipated there would be more interest in food trucks actually setting up on the streets. But our experience has been that we haven't to date had any trucks independent of those going to the New Park Brewery that have been interested in getting a permit. So that concern or thought just didn't prove out based on our history over the first year.
And so if the experience going forward changed, if we started to see more applications of trucks wanting to be on the street, would we reconsider this and possibly bring the police back?
Yeah, the police department would still control on-street sales. What this removes is those sales that are occurring on private property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Yes, accessory use only, right? Mr. Winograd, you just went through your committee for a quick review, right? Or do you want to? Yeah.
I think we reviewed it. I'm sorry. Yeah, we did go through our committee, and I think our conclusion was that this was a reasonable change to be made at this time, and again, so far, so good, and let's hope it continues.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from town staff? No?
No, Mayor.
Okay, and we did not have anyone on the sign-up sheet. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this public hearing? No? Okay, so I will read into for the record, letter dated July 10th, 2018 from TPZ recommending approval, and letter dated July 10th, 2018 from CROG finding no apparent conflict. And with that, I will close the public hearing.
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. LeBeau?
Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Ms. Cantor. Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Mr. Dodge.
Here.
Ms. Fay is absent. Ms. Kerrigan. Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Winograd. And Mr. Williams.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. LeBeau. Number 4, Ms. Kerrigan.
Meeting 6/26/2018, thank you. And the public hearing, 1340 to 1344 New Britain Ave and 816 Berkshire Road, 6/26/2018.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is public forum. The sign-up is blank. If there's anybody here that would like to speak to anything on the agenda that's not the subject of a public hearing? No? Okay. Number 6, Ms. Kerrigan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move we place items 21 through 25 on the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, Ms. Kerrigan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are tabling the ordinance establishing procedures for licensing and public safety police details at entertainment establishments to August 14th at 6:20.
Number 8.
Wait.
Oh, it is a motion to table.
Oh, it is a motion.
There was a little disagreement about that. Okay, all those in favor?
I should have went to you.
Second.
Oh, second.
Second-
All-
sec-
yep,
second the motion to
Motion's been
table.
made and seconded. All those
Thank you.
in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 8.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will always go to the source. I move adoption of an ordinance editing schedule of permitted accessory uses, Section 27, for food trucks.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart, do you want to just do a quick little recap?
Yes, Mayor, I do believe that Mr. McGovern and Assistant Chief McHugh covered this well during their presentation for the public hearing. What we're seeking here is an amendment to the existing ordinance, and it just relates to the permitted accessory uses under the ordinance here. We did review this with the Community Planning and Physical Services Committee. The committee was supportive and recommended that we bring it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any comments before we vote? All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, Ms. Kerrigan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move approval of a resolution authorizing the town manager to execute a lease with Dutch Point Credit Union.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart?
Thank you, Mayor. And we discussed this briefly last time when it was introduced. The credit union has been located at Town Hall for some time now. They requested a smaller space from us, and actually one of our school district offices, the residency office in particular, needed a larger space, so we agreed to a swap. So the residency office will be moving to the credit union space. The credit union space is moving to a smaller space elsewhere on the first floor. We do have a lease with the credit union. We'd have a new lease here. It would run for a 5-year term. There'd be an option for an additional 5-year term, and the payment is a little over $15,000 per year.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any questions or comments before we vote? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, Ms. Kerrigan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2018-19 general fund budget to reflect an increase in estimated state aid and appropriate these funds for personnel services.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart?
Thank you, Mayor. We reviewed this item with the Finance and Budget Committee at its last meeting. I also have Mr. Privatera here in case council has additional questions. We're seeking approval from the council to provide this funding in order to allow us to move up the hiring for the assisting zoning officer position. We had budgeted at 6 months for this fiscal year. And also so that we could fill 2 important positions, 2 grounds maintainer positions within the Public Works Department. Due to budget considerations, we left those vacant for the current year. Now, we didn't know how state aid was going to fall. But these positions are important to the work of the department if we want to maintain current level of services. I've reviewed all of these with both department heads. They feel strongly that the positions are very important to us. I have additional detail regarding the responsibilities and needs for each of these positions if council has additional questions. But we are seeking your approval to appropriate the additional $142,000 so that we could fill the 3 positions in question.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Now, these positions existed, they're being filled, they were left vacant.
Correct.
They're not new
Correct.
positions.
To clarify, the Assistant Zoning Officer position, we budgeted for 6 months for the new fiscal year, so a start date of January 1. And that's a position we've had for many years. The 2 grounds maintainer positions we also have had for several years, but we left those vacant because we weren't sure how state aid was going to fall for the current year, and we were making adjustments to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any questions from town council? No? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, Ms. Hart.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement and acceptance of payment from the MDC in the amount of $357,850,000 in lieu of completion of pavement and curbing restoration on Montclair Drive and Lynbrook Road.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart, you want to fill us in?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the MDC recently performed water and sanitary sewer work on the 3 roads in question, Brookfield, Lynbrook, and Montclair. We had noted that the pavement condition on Lynbrook and Montclair was poor. Recognizing that we would need to repair those roads, the town and the MDC, we discussed an agreement in which MDC would pay the town in order to perform the restoration. I believe we have engaged in similar agreements with the MDC in the past. So we are seeking council approval to enter into this agreement with the MDC, under which we would receive a little under $358,000 to complete this work.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any questions or comments? Mr. Barnes?
Yeah, just to clarify, so the 358, is that just for the granite curbs, or is that for the granite curbs and for the repaving of all of these roads?
My understanding, it's both. It would replace and reset the curbing and to reconstruct the roadways.
Okay, thank you.
I see some nodding in the audience. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Davidoff. Do you have anything else? Mr. Davidoff.
Great idea. Just a quick question. Have we reached out to CNG to find out if they have any plans to do any type of work in this area prior to us commencing reconstruction?
Don't know the answer to that question, Mr. McGovern. Any idea?
I haven't heard of any change of plans. We meet with all the utilities at the start of the season, and we did that again this year in probably February, in which we planned all these activities. So I don't know specifically if CNG has done work, but if so, it would have been done prior to the completion of MDC's work. So we have no expectation that any planned work will follow our paving.
The operative word is planned. Thank you.
There are always emergencies that need to be addressed.
Yes.
Right.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else? All right, with that, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, Ms. Kerrigan.
The $21,000 in the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget of the Drug Enforcement Fund.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart?
Thank you, Mayor. We're seeking council approval for this item. The Drug Enforcement Fund, it supports sensitive investigations related to vice and narcotics here in town. The fund receives the proceeds of drug asset forfeitures, and it also earns interest income. We would plan to utilize the $21,000 primarily for work that would be performed on overtime as well as miscellaneous administrative expenses. And this is work we've performed previously in the past with a good deal of success.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 13, Ms. Kerrigan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2017-2018 general fund budget to fund transfers to debt service fund, utility service fund, risk management fund, and capital non-recurring expenditure fund.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart?
Thank you, Mayor. We are seeking approval to amend the budget in order to appropriate surplus as we contemplated for the new year. I will ask Mr. Privatera, our Director of Finance, to come forward and add just a bit more detail to my opening remarks.
Just start talking.
Oh,
and
just
we'll-
start talking. I'm
yes.
looking for the button on this thing. Thank you. If you recall, when we were putting the fiscal year 19 budget together, we're trying to find ways to mitigate any increases to the budget. We expected this surplus, and a determination was made that if we moved this surplus to certain funds, we could reduce our budget for the current year, fiscal year 19, and that was part of the budget mitigation plan to reduce taxes. So this $3.8 million in surplus from fiscal year 17-18 will be moved into various funds in 18-19. And again, those actions, those adjustments were already made as part of the fiscal year 2019 budget adoption process.
Thank you, Mr. Privatera. And these are not one-time?
No, they're not.
They're amortized over
No,
several
the
years. They're
intent,
going into funds.
the intent was to spread it out over a period of time.
Thank you. Any questions from counselors? All right, with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Privatera. Number 14, Ms. Carey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of a resolution appropriating a historic document preservation grant from the Connecticut State Library in the amount of $6,500.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. I think this is you, yeah.
Yes, Mayor, I want to commend the town clerk, Ms. LeBreau, for putting this application together, and I understand we've got a long history of receiving these grants. This grant would provide funding to allow us to microfilm and bind various documents, vital records, and others. Ms. LeBreau, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add.
This just results in greater access for our residents as well. Some of the books that we have now are old and they're bound with old glue and everything, so this will be a lot easier. And also having our maps microfilmed. The grant is $1,500 more than previous year, so I'm happy about that.
Thank you, Ms. LeBreau. Any questions from the council, comments? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 15.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of a resolution to appropriate $92,000 in the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget of the capital and non-recurring expenditure fund for the purchase of an ice resurfacing vehicle.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to invite Ms. Rubino Turco to come forward and present this item.
An ice resurfacer is also known as a Zamboni, but it's a brand name, so we call them ice resurfacers. I use Kleenex, I drink Coca-Cola, I use a Zamboni. The Zamboni that we have now has been breaking down. It's 19 years old. It's at the end of its mechanical life, and it's been breaking down a lot recently. We've been pouring some significant funds into it, and it really isn't appropriate to use this old Zamboni at Veterans Memorial Skating Rink as an everyday machine. This is a machine we use every single day, multiple times a day. And so we have been looking online for replacement Zambonis, replacement ice resurfacers, which happen to be Zambonis in this case. And we found one. A new Zamboni costs about $170,000. So we were looking for lightly used ones. And Peter Montezano, the facility supervisor there, has been trolling the internet looking for them. And he found one that had very little use, but it was purchased by a rink, and en route to the rink, it fell off the truck. So this is a Zamboni that fell off the truck. And It was damaged. The exterior was damaged. But the machine itself, the motor, the blades, everything that it uses were not damaged. But it was bought by a company that fixes dents and, fixes cars and machines like this in Minnesota. And they fixed it, and they were offering it for sale. And because of it being lightly used, and because it had some exterior damage that was repaired, it's at a very reasonable price. It's almost 40% off. So it's being offered now for $92,000. We feel that this is an excellent use of our funds. We've received the normal questions that we get from Peter Privitera, from Matt Hart are, well, what's the warranty and who's going to ship it? And is that all of those things? So we've worked all of that out. There is no warranty from Zamboni, the manufacturer of the machine, because it fell off a truck. But the company that repaired it is guaranteeing all parts for a year and will guarantee the work that they did for the lifetime of our ownership of it. In addition, they're buying back from us our old Zamboni, which is gas-powered, which we can't use indoors because it's, bad for the air for the customers. It's a Zamboni that we use for parades and things like that. But it's actually a collector's item. And they want it so that they can refurbish it. And in Minnesota, they have a lot of ice outside where it being a gas-powered doesn't really matter. So we're using that trade-in. That's part of the deal that we've worked out. This includes shipping the machine here to us and them taking this old machine away. The current Zamboni that I was telling you about that has received a lot, that has been breaking down, is a perfect use for it would be as a backup. We can fix it so that it can be used so that our programming is not interrupted. Having a serviceable backup is essential to a facility like Veterans Rink. We intend to, with your permission, to purchase this. We'll make a down payment, but first we're going to go look at the machine. So we're sending Peter Montezano, the facility supervisor, out there. He would fly out tomorrow morning. They've offered, they will take the machine to a rink where he will ride it around and make sure that it's in operating order, give him the down payment, and then we will proceed with the remainder of our contract with them. We feel this is a very good use of the CNRE money for something that's unexpected like this, but that is essential to the operations of the rink.
Thank you very much. I think this is a great use of creative research and thinking, because this is quite a deal for the town. Any comments or questions, Mr. Sweeney?
I just want to say thank you. It's really nice to hear the thought process that the staff puts into making purchases like this. You don't hear a lot of these stories about how great our staff is, but thank you so much for the thoughtfulness that you put into this. It's really nice.
To be fair, I want to just give a shout out to Peter Montezano, who has, in just a few short years, has completely revamped and restructured the operations at the rink, and it is making a profit, which then they do reinvest back into that facility. But they've worked out a wonderful relationship with all of the stakeholders there, the figure skating club, the youth hockey teams, the high school teams that play there, as well as the general public and the very popular Learn to Skate program.
Well said. Thank you very much. And a special shout out to Peter. Anything else? Ms. Kerrigan?
Quick question. So at the next parade, what will be there for a Zamboni? The new Zamboni or the barely
I don't
working
know
Zamboni?
if we'll have a Zamboni in the parade, but maybe we'll have ice skaters with roller skating instead of ice skating. I don't know. But this Zamboni does have a snowflake on its wheel, on its steering wheel. So I just thought point that out to you.
It's already like an old soul, that Zamboni, so. All right, thank you so much. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you again. Ms. Rubino Turco, number 16, Ms. Carey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of a resolution authorizing acceptance of a conservation easement at 243 Steel Road.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart?
Mr. Allaire will present this item.
Thank you.
Good evening. You will recall not too long ago, you approved an additional building, apartment building, at 243 Steel Road. Behind that building is a, what is commonly known as a detention basin, although they get flowery names sometimes. When the amendment was approved by TP&Z, there was a related inland wetlands application relating to that detention basin, which included a condition that the grantor, that the property owner, grant a conservation easement to ensure that that detention basin would remain clean and clear. Normally, when a condition like this is approved, we can find someone like the homeowners association in a condo or something like that to be the recipient of that conservation easement, but there's no one else in this case. So it's a very unusual case where we agreed that the town is the logical recipient. We already have the enforcement responsibility for the wetlands conditions of approval anyway, so we're not accepting any burden more over and above what we already have. But it was really the only option that we could come up with in this case. The other piece is ordinarily you'd be referring to TP&Z tonight, but because this originated as a condition of approval of TP&Z, that doesn't seem to make any sense. So it's ready for adoption this evening.
That was the only question I had, so thank you very much. Any other questions from the council? Again, thank you, Mr. Allaire. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 17, Mr. Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. I've distributed copies of my report to the council, and the announcements are for you, Mayor, on the last couple of pages. So first, under the section of council business and meetings, I know that this is a very busy week, especially for the summer. We do have a number of meetings this week. Obviously, tonight's meeting, we had Administrative and Technology on Monday. Tomorrow morning, we'll meet at 8 a.m., the Community Planning and Physical Services Committee. Then Public Safety will meet the following morning on the 19th at 8 a.m. We're going to have a special meeting at 7 p.m. on the 19th that I'll speak to in a little bit. And then Finance and Budget, we're trying to firm up the date. It will be July 24th or July 25th. My understanding that Human Services Committee will not be meeting on July 26th, so I will strike this. And the council's next regular meeting will be held on August 14th at 6:30 p.m. in accordance with your summer schedule. Next item, the Community Summer Swim Team. So I'd like to thank our residents who came out tonight to address the council on this subject that's obviously very important to them. I'd like to provide a brief history and talk about some next steps. And much of this history we did review with the Human Services Committee at its last meeting. So at the end of the last outdoor pool season, 2017, our staff reviewed all of our aquatics programs. Registrations were low for the swim team, and our statistics actually indicated a downward trend over the past several years. So because of that, in early winter, staff conducted an outdoor aquatic survey, and they utilized a number of tools to conduct this survey. Social media, the council briefs, the town's website, and they did send direct emails to everyone, all the families that had participated in the program where we had an active email address. In addition, the department, the Leisure Services Department, they conducted a public meeting last November, in 17 to gather additional comments. So when staff looked at all of the survey results, they indicated an overwhelming interest in additional recreational swim time and additional opportunities for lap swim. Now, historically, the swim team program required the pools to close to the public from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, which is a popular time to use the pool for many. And we were charging separate administrations for afternoons and evenings. So in order to address the declining enrollment, as well as the desires of the community that were reflected in the survey, for this season, our town staff decided to pilot the summer swim program at Cornerstone Aquatics. And as the council knows, Cornerstone is a municipal facility. It is privately run, but they do have some professional swim coaches and instructors with talents and skills above and beyond what we typically employ in leisure services. So the new season does run 7 weeks. I think we're halfway into it at a cost of approximately $16 a week, rather than the former 5-week program, which cost approximately $14 a week. Staff didn't make this decision lightly. They felt that allowing residents, primarily families with younger children who wanted to utilize the outdoor pools late afternoons, would address, most of the comments we received as a result of the survey. So our schedule for this year, for 2018, does extend recreational swim hours during the week and on weekends. In addition, we didn't increase any of the aquatic fees for 18, and we eliminated those separate admissions we used to have for afternoons and evenings. So following the closure of this season, we'll debrief, we'll review everything, we'll take the comments that we received tonight very seriously, and discuss our findings with the Human Services Committee and make plans for 2019. But I do want to thank the members of our community who came out tonight to address the council on this topic. Moving on. So later tonight, the council will meet in executive session in accordance with our Connecticut's Freedom of Information Act to discuss an offer from the University of Connecticut that would provide the town with the opportunity to match the terms of the purchase and sale agreement recently executed between the university and Seven Stars Cloud Group Incorporated for the purchase of UConn's former West Hartford campus. UConn is extending this offer in order to voluntarily comply with the first right of refusal requirements that are set out under Connecticut General Statutes 3-14. The council will meet in public session to further discuss this matter at a special meeting that we will hold at 7 p.m. here in this room this Thursday, July 19th. The agenda for the July 19th special meeting consists of only 2 parts. First, we'll have a public forum section to provide members of the public with the opportunity to address the council only regarding the university's offer to allow the town to match the terms of the purchase and sale agreement. The next agenda item will be council discussion related to the same. Moving on to departmental reports, tax bills. As I've mentioned a few times in the recent past, the town has mailed all the first installment bills out to our residents and our taxpayers, and the last day to pay without penalty is Wednesday, August 1st. Also pleased to report, I'm sorry I don't have their names, I'll bring them next time, our 4 new police officer candidates. They did graduate the police academy on June 12th, which is great, and they are now in the first phase of their 4-month field training program. So assuming that they all pass their requirements there, they will be released for work on their own by November of this year. Moving on to a report on an MDC item, and I think I sent the council an email on this issue. This was recently in the press. Due to a loss of federal funding, the State Department of Public Health is now charging a fee to all water systems, all community water systems across the state, including the MDC. And this fee is intended to help the DPH, help their enforcement, to fund their enforcement efforts to protect the quality of our drinking water. So the impact on our customers will be a new charge of 33 cents a month. And customers will begin to see them at, very soon if they haven't already. So that, one more item I wanted to report on, Mayor, before I turn things over to you. I would like to thank and acknowledge our outgoing Deputy Corporation Counsel, Ms. Kimberly Bonham, on her great work for the town over the past several years. You know, she is moving on to potentially greener pastures. We certainly hope so. I want to wish her all the best in her new ventures. And Kimberly, I also want to thank you for all the assistance you provided to me over the past year, helping me get acclimated to town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart, and I echo that. Thank you, Deputy Clerk Counsel Kimberly Bonham. She's been a real she's been such a wonderful addition to all of us, and you will be missed. Any questions for the town manager before we go to announcements? Mr. Barnes.
Just one question, just going back to the swim team program, do you know the enrollment numbers? What the enrollment was before the change was made and what the enrollment numbers look like this summer at Cornerstone?
We do have that. Ms. Rubino Turco will come forward and answer the question.
At the height of, within the last 5 or 6 years, the height of the enrollment in the outdoor swim teams was about 250. It had been declining. Last year, it was 120. As of right now, about 60 children have signed up for the swim team at Cornerstone, which for a brand new program, new to Cornerstone, is pretty impressive.
Do you any idea why there was such a significant drop-off over the last couple of years? Has there been any other changes in the program that has caused it to decline like that?
I think sometimes programs ebb and flow. That's why we review them annually. No pun intended. We also have been looking every day between 4:30 and 6. We're counting how many people are there now. And anecdotally, we can say that it appears to be a popular time for families. We will have better statistics, of course, at the end of the season.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Thank you, Ms. Helen Rubino-Turco. Mr. Dodge.
Sorry,
Helen, I think you may,
just.
Maybe she's.
I apologize too, because I wasn't at the Human Services Committee meeting, and so some of these questions might have been more appropriate then. When we did the survey last year, was one of the questions, or was anything posed in a way that would have asked people how they would have felt about moving the outdoor swim team program to Cornerstone in the summer?
We did not ask that question because we didn't have the information back from the community about what was important to them. Mm-hmm. We analyzed everything and said, we really need to look at our programming. We have 60,000 people in our town. We have 4 outdoor pools, and we do have to analyze and review programs, especially programs that may not be flourishing as they used to. We wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't look at everything and try and be as efficient and as successful as possible in terms of using our resources. Mm-hmm. So that was part of our thinking. We did the survey, we gathered as much information as we could, and then we began to take apart the programming.
I just, as a comment to the town manager's report, as a follow-up to the public hearing earlier, I certainly appreciate what you guys are looking at. I think that you're juggling a lot of things with the different demands that are on the town pools, and I agree that they're a critically important town resource. I was a kid growing up in town who did participate in the summer swim teams, and it was such a special experience. I think that Casey, when she spoke tonight, hit it on the head. Where, let me back up a step. I was reading a New York Times article recently, actually, where it talked about one issue with declining soccer enrollment is that kids are being pushed more and more towards these competitive programs, travel soccer, that sort of thing, and it's sort of burning kids out to an extent. And growing up, the summer swim program was just kind of a goofy, fun thing to be able to do during the summer. It was distinctly different than, the Waves program in the winter. It was less a competitive exercise, I think, than more kind of like a neighborhood club almost. And it's something that I think we're missing more and more today, which is just this sort of purely recreational. And I know you were actually trying to increase recreational swim, but this kind of less competitive type of event. And again, I just think it's something nice that the town's always had. I really enjoyed participating in it. I actually developed lifelong friends participating in it because you got to know other kids, kids who weren't necessarily in your direct neighborhood, but who you would see at the pool. And so I certainly, for one, hope that, you guys take a serious look at this over the fall with an eye towards possibly reinstating the program next year. But, I do appreciate all of the balls that you were juggling. And I also apologize because I think this is probably more appropriate for a committee meeting, but I did miss that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Any other comments, Ms. Kerrigan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to have it, to quote Mr. Davidoff on the record, that there was no intention by, yourself or anyone else to withhold this change from the public. As a town, we never operate in that way, that we'll try to pull a fast one, and if no one knows about it, it'll slide through. So, because I know that you struggled with accommodating all the needs of our residents and do a heck of a job, and sometimes there's a little blip along the way, so just make it known that it wasn't intentionally done in secret.
Thank you, Ms. Kerrigan. And I'm sure there will be much more discussion on this post-season when we know all the numbers of the impact on the recreational time that's opened up and the swim time. So we're looking forward to having more discussions about it. And I do sincerely appreciate Casey's coming in and Ms. Power coming in and talking about the impact to her family. And we need to hear the impact of a lot of families on the program. So thank you very, very much. And I also participated, as did my kids, in the program, which is a very dear place in my heart. Let's see, anything else for Mr. Hart? No? Okay, with that, we'll go to number 18, which is announcements. Announcements are we have won, or have been named, Most Educated City in Connecticut. Town of West Hartford was the recipient of Insurify's Most Educated City in Connecticut Award. Award winners were determined by an analysis of the educational achievement of individuals across the United States. To determine the most educated community in each state, Insurify analyzed over 1.4 million auto insurance applications that indicated the age and education history of each applicant. Within the data set, each individual was assigned a score based on educational attainment, and for current students' grade point average, the results were then grouped by city, and the highest score communities in each state were identified. That's pretty cool. Global, why are you laughing? Global Starts Local, Climate Change. Join Georgetown graduate Owen Egan for a lecture that explores climate change, bringing a worldwide problem to the local level and surveying West Hartford's role in the solution on Wednesday, July 18th at 7 p.m. at the Noel Webster Library, 20 South Main Street. I will be giving a few opening remarks at the beginning of that event, and registration is at the library. Teddy Bear Picnic, Elmwood Community Center, will hold its annual picnic on Wednesday, July 18th, 6 to 7:30, outside near the gazebo at 1106 New Britain Avenue. Bring your bear, picnic dinner to this special event that features family, entertainment, music, and ice cream. It's a free event. The rain location is in the auditorium.
Charter Oak Park Lecture by Dr. Gene Leach, Dr. Eugene E. Leach, on Thursday, July 19th at 7 p.m. for a lively talk on West Hartford's fun and controversial racetrack, Charter Oak Park at the Noah Webster House, 227 South Main Street. I can't imagine that we would zone for something like that now, but anyway, the event is free and open to the public. Suggested donation $5 per person. Seating is limited. Reservations are recommended. Blood Drive. Atria Hamilton Heights will hold its annual American Red Cross Blood Drive at its Chapel 1 Hamilton Heights on July 20th, 11. It says 11, and I don't know till when. I'm sorry. Please call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org. In the Heights, Playhouse on Park presents Lin-Manuel's Miranda's in the Heights now through July 29th. There is an open mic night on July 21st as well. Tickets are on sale ranging from $40 to $50. For more information, call the Playhouse at 860-523-5900, extension 10, or visit the website www.playhouseonpark.org. Pencils for Puerto Rico fundraiser. In an effort to make a difference in a small way to help Hurricane Maria victims, Playhouse on Park is running a pencil and crayon drive for select schools in Puerto Rico now through July 29th. Bring your donations when you come to the In the Heights show or stop by during business hours, Tuesday through Friday 10 to 6 and Saturday 10 to 2. And then it's done. And we passed the 20-minute mark a little bit, but Pericles Prince of Tyre, Capitol Classics Theater Company presents William Shakespeare's epic adventurer, Pericles Prince of Tyre, now through July 29th. The play is outdoors at the University of St. Joseph. Tickets are $18 for adults and $12 for students and seniors, and are available online at the door or by calling the box office at 860-231-5555. Fourth Annual Community Pool Party and fundraiser. Friends of Fern Park's annual community pool party will be held on July 21st, 6:15 to 8 p.m. The event will include entertainment from DJ Paul, crafts, games, and of course swimming. Fee is $5 per person, cash only. Pool passes will not be accepted for this event. Ballet Under the Stars, Connecticut Ballet presents Ballet Under the Stars annual Marge Wilder tribute performance on Saturday, July 21st at 6:30 p.m. at the Elizabeth Park Conservancy. Free admission. Rain date is July 22nd. Taste of Blueback Square. More than 12 restaurants will be participating in the Taste of Blueback Square and the Center for 2018 on Wednesday, July 25th, 5:30 to 8:30 in the former REI parking lot. Go to weha.com and Facebook to purchase your tickets. Advance tickets are $25 each when you buy 4 or more, $30 each when you buy 2 or 3, or $40 when you buy 1, and $40 at the door. The event sells out each year, so get your tickets soon. Say Things Funny, a loving tribute to Carol Burnett. This summer, co-artistic director of Playhouse on Park, Darlene Zoller, returns with Say Things Funny, an original production celebrating the legendary entertainer Carol Burnett on July 30th and 31st at 7:30. Tickets are now on sale for this production at only $20, all seats reserved. For people that are old enough to know. All right. Only one in the audience. Okay, so any other announcements? No? Okay. Number 19 is reports from Corporation Counsel. Mr. Allaire.
A couple of things. First of all, I'd like to start by echoing Mr. Hart's comments about Kimberly, who insists that she prefers to fly below the radar, but too damn bad. Kimberly, I believe, I didn't get a chance to double check this, but I believe is the second longest running employee in the history of our office, after me. I believe by a year or so. And what I can tell you for certainty, because I didn't need to check on this, is that her tenure with the office has certainly been the best part of my time here. She has been a fantastic first assistant, then deputy to me, and I am deeply going to miss her as she sails off into the sunset. But having retired from this place myself, but not quite done it correctly, I can't help but applaud her and wish her all of the best. Good luck. And Second, we do, in addition to discussing the Yukon property, we do need to meet an executive session for 2 litigation matters. One of them is a discussion of the Jenkins versus Town of West Hartford case, and you may or may not be adopting resolution after the executive session is over on that one. The other is a discussion of what has become to be known as the opioid litigation that has been started by a number of municipalities, and at least a preliminary discussion without a vote afterwards about possibly participating in that. Other than that, I have no formal report.
Thank you, Mr. Lau. Do you know the order of the executive session items that you will be?
We have Attorney Tom Gerard here, so I think we will do the Jenkins case first, and then he can leave. The opioid will take just a couple of minutes. I just want to give you a quick thumbnail, and then we can spend the lion's share of our time talking about Yukon, which hopefully will be a little lion.
Okay, and I will be recusing myself, so that will
Yes,
make sense. So
that was-
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, all right, thank you. Anything else? Any questions for Mr. Lair? Okay. Number 20 is appointments. We have 2, and I know Mr. Barnes has a couple as well, except I think we have to suspend the rules to receive a resignation before we do the appointment. So a motion to suspend the rules to accept a resignation. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. We are accepting the resignation of Ryan Langen, and he actually will be part of an appointment from Conservation, the Conservation Commission. So we do have to make a motion on accepting the reservation. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. I'm back up to appointments. Tanya Barrett, I move that we appoint Tanya Barrett to the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District for a term ending 12/31/2020, and Edward Sham appointed to the Advisory Commission for Persons with Disabilities for a term ending 12/31/2021. You want to second that?
Second, sure.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And Mr. Barnes?
Very good. I make a motion, we have 2 appointments. One, Shannon Morris, to be appointed to the Commission on Veterans Affairs for a term expiring 12/31/21. And the second appointment, Ryan Langen, appointed as an alternate to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission for a term expiring 12/31/18. That's completing a term that was vacated by Liz Gillette when she was appointed as a full member of the TPZ.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And then we go to number 26.
I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. 27, Ms. Carrion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move receipt of a notice of the town planner's intention to approve pursuant to section 177-44C 9D, a request on behalf of Prospect Plaza Improvements LLC for an amendment to the Special Development District Number 11 located at 245 Prospect Avenue, 18 Kane Street, and known as Prospect Plaza. The request for minor architectural modifications to the facade of the small out parcel building.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 28, Ms. Carrion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move receipt from Josh Smilowitz, 6/27/2018, a resignation from Zoning Board of Appeals.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for your service, Josh. No petitions. We do have an executive session, so I make a motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay,
I didn't know it would come up.
back from executive session, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules to adopt a resolution authorizing a settlement of a claim.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. I make a motion that we adopt a resolution authorizing settlement of a claim. Be it resolved that the administration of the town of West Hartford is authorized to settle the case entitled Matthew Jenkins versus West Hartford Board of Education et al., docket number HHD CV 14-6051677-S for the sum of $87,500. Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries.